are they at the beginnings of a dynastic run? Sports Illustrated, Rob, The Athletic, both wrote articles saying that they are, bringing that up and kind of saying they've got all the makings of a dynasty. They got the superstar. They got a great sidekick in the second star, Jamal Murray, to Nikola Jokic's superstar. They've got Aaron Gordon and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and a host of nice young role players. And they're all young. That's the thing. Like, Nikola Jokic, Rob, is 28 years old. Aaron Gordon is 27 years old. Jamal Murray, believe it or not, is just 25 years old. And, Michael
I can't
Porter
believe
Jr.
that.
is
And he's
20
been hurt 2 years.
Right. And Michael Porter, when these guys come in early, they're coming in at 19, 20 years of age. And Rob, Michael Porter Jr. is 24. So they are very young. And Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, I mentioned him. Now, he's 30, but he's locked up. All these guys, Rob, are locked up under contract. The one guy they might lose is Bruce Brown, who's earned his right. He can opt out of his contract, which he should do. And he'll get a nice payday somewhere else because he was the hero or one of them of Game 4. And so even when you look at their, guys they got coming down the pike, Peyton Watson, Rob, a nice shooting guard who's young. He's like out of UCLA. He's 20 years old, but they really like him. He's got a lot of talent. So Christian Brown, who I think can step in and fill the role of that Bruce Brown had. So these guys Jamal Murray just turned 26 in February. So he's 26 now, but
okay,
you get my gist. So that's why a lot of people are saying that this could become a run, not just a one and done. Your thoughts?
And let me say this. First, Chris, of course, we're broadcasting live from the Blue Wire studios here at the Wynn in Las Vegas. But I just think it's too premature. We see this all the time. I know people need storylines and they need to talk about something, Chris. And it's logical. I get it. They're a young team. They're on the cusp of winning a championship, and people are all ready. We remember we talked about it before, and I know this is different, when everybody wanted to crown Chris Paul and Devin Booker was the next Kobe Bryant. You remember that? I mean, like it's just people getting ahead of themselves. And that's not to say that they're not good. Chris, if this group wins, I can say this. They might not win back-to-back or 3 in a row, but this group could win another one. They could take a step back and then in 2 years win another one, Chris. Like, I think that because we talk about the Spurs, they never won back-to-back, and they won 5. Like, you could lose, get another piece, something happens or whatever, and then win again. That's what I think is more realistic for the Nuggets. I just – to sign off and go like, oh, they're going to run the table and win 3 in a row like Shaq and Kobe, I don't see that. I don't.
I definitely don't see 3 in a row. And I think I agree with now. Could they come back and win it next year? Sure, they got a shot. Like they have the makings, and I mentioned all the ages of the players, so they're young, but they also have a superstar like a Tim Duncan, Rob, and Jokic, who's humble, who's not going to have wandering eyes, who, he creates a great culture in the building. Everybody likes him because he's a team first guy. He's not braggadocious. Like, all of that, you can't help but like him, as you said earlier in the show. So that helps. But the thing is, Rob, we're now in an era where you have a lot of dynamic duos. Right? You got Phoenix with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, and we could go on and on. Boston with Tatum and Brown, Anthony Davis and LeBron in LA. And I think these teams are going to really try to step it up, and they should this summer. What does Phoenix do? If they put the right pieces around Booker and Durant, And we'll see what they do with DeAndre Ayton. But even if they let him go or trade him, you can get something in return for him. I think Golden State is still, their window's still open. If they make smart moves, if they get some size, if they get, Jordan Poole, trade him for somebody else, and then they get their locker room situation straight so that tension between Draymond and Jordan Poole isn't there. Like Dallas, look, we'll see what they do with Kyrie. Remember a year ago, they were in the conference finals, Rob. So Milwaukee, Rob, when they beat Phoenix, came back and won 4 straight, and Giannis was phenomenal, a lot of people thought that would become a dynasty. And so it shows you how difficult it is. But there are a lot of teams that are going to improve, and they're going to be a handful for the Nuggets to deal with. So I agree. There's no way you can say dynasty at this point. But Jokic, we've talked about him. He obviously is an all-time great center. Where he ends up ranking ultimately will be based on how much he wins. And if he keeps winning, then, obviously he's going to be a guy that you put high up on that list. So it's too early to talk dynasty. Sure, they have a shot to win. I definitely agree with you in that they should win another championship. I would be surprised, Rob, if they don't win another one. I'm not saying next year necessarily, but I would be surprised if they don't win at least one more. Did we lose Rob? We might have, we must have some technical difficulties. Yeah, folks, the Denver Nuggets have, okay, is he back now?
Yep.
I was ready to go on a soliloquy, man.
Go ahead. I want to hear it.
No, I mean, go ahead. I just went on one.
Okay.
Now I was about to stretch it out, but go ahead.
No, I mean, I love the team. I love what they represent, what they could do, Chris. I do. And they do have, but here's another example. When Giannis won, Chris, they're going to win now, right?
Yep, that's what I said earlier.
Did you say that? Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, that, and then somebody, Chris Middleton gets hurt. Yep. Something happens. Jamal Murray, nobody's putting it in the water, Chris. We're not trying to, but he was hurt for 2 years.
Well, that's the thing, Rob. What if he hadn't gotten hurt? Remember, they not only got to the conference finals in the bubble when Murray was healthy. That was the last playoff run before this one that he was healthy. But they beat the Clippers when Kawhi and Paul George were there.
Right. And the Clippers were up 3-1.
Yep. So they aren't going anywhere. I get the talk. I just think you need to wait and see because, again, we've talked about this, Rob, in the midst of a series. Whichever team wins the last game, everyone thinks they have control of the series. Well, a lot of times, whichever team wins the championship, a lot of people think, they're about to win it again. But it's not easy to repeat. And it's been now, obviously the Warriors were the last team to repeat, but that was with just a super stacked team. But it is not easy to run the table 2 years in a row.
No, big time. I think it's very, very difficult. Too many things happen, Chris. You just don't know. What if LeBron and AD put together something and get the right player or some situation right happen for them, and then they beat them? You could get knocked out. Or the Clippers 1 year is finally healthy, Chris, right? And they have all their pieces. Or they win.
Yeah, they'd be dangerous if that could ever happen. Absolutely. I mean, I'm looking at, obviously the Warriors repeated in 17 and 18, and the Heat repeated in 12 and 13. We actually have had a lot of repeats lately, Rob. 2009-10, the Lakers with Kobe, obviously, Pau Gasol. And then before that, in the early 2000s, you, of course, had the three-peat Lakers. Before that, the three-peat Bulls twice. I remember, and I'm sure you do as well, when the Showtime Lakers repeated in 87 and 88. And they were the first team in 20 years to repeat. But we have had a lot of repeat champions since then. In fact, the Pistons did it right after them, remember? And then Jordan and the Bulls did it 3 times. And then the Rockets repeated, and then the Bulls did a three-peat again. So, we'll see. I mean, they might be able to come and go ahead and repeat. It's interesting that the Spurs could never do it, Rob.
Yeah.
They had a good culture,
They had the culture, they had the players, Chris, and they won 5 championships stretch out over 20 years, 18 years, whatever it was. But they never won back-to-back, which was always so shocking to think about how hard it is.